Even Heather Graham, who's normally doesn't have a lot of range, is pretty funny in it.
Well, she's basically playing herself.
Hollywood's version of the Village Bicycle.
Hi, I'm William Keck, the author of When You Step Upon a Star, and you're listening to the All Over the Place podcast, where the fun sanity never ends.
Hello and welcome back to All Over the Place, the official podcast of Media Pub Live. I, as always, am your host, Eric Pervozic. And as always, next to me over there is Jim Culver. How are you tonight, Jim?
I'm great. How are you? Glad to be here.
I'm baseballed out, and this is what, folks, I'm glad we're sitting down for this. It was a weekend filled with baseball umping, and I had not one problem with a coach, not one problem with a parent. There, let's get this in there. Not one problem with a parent, and only one kid got lippy and said a pitch was at his eyes. It's top of the zone. But I just said, yeah, eyes, use them. See the top of the zone, swing the bat.
Okay, those baseball dads got to step their game up if they're not giving you a hard time.
Oh, no, hey, shut your mouth. Your mouth needs to be shut a fag. No, but hey, great weekend on the baseball fields. But enough of the baseball talk, the sports talk. Because you can see over here, I got a new buddy. I want to thank one of my friends and fellow umpires, Doug Dunkelbarger. We're gonna miss you, Doug, going back to Indiana. But Doug's a listener, and I appreciate that. And so we're gonna miss you. But I picked up Darth Vader here, and James Earl Jones, rest in peace.
R.I.P.
Yes. James Earl Jones, rest in peace. Yes, folks, it was totally accidental.
Unplanned.
Jim wearing the Star Wars.
Like everything on this show.
And me picking up the Darth. Happy accidents. It's a wonderful thing.
Yep.
And speaking with Doug as a subscriber, we continue to grow, folks. Every week, more shows being downloaded, more subscribers coming in. We appreciate all the liking, all the sharing, all the subscribing. Thank you so much on behalf of Jim. We hear it all over the place. Greatly appreciate it. And also, just very quickly, I'm not releasing my anger. I've got no anger. I'm about to say something nice. I am wearing my V8 shirt today. I believe I've worn this in the past sometimes, but I really do have more T-shirts. But today, as we record, it's the 4th anniversary of the passing of Sir Eddie. And I should probably bring this into closer focus here. But, it's Ed, gone, never forgotten. Sorry, folks, you're seeing the back of my head right now. Eddie Van Halen, the man, the legend. I'll scoot over a little bit there and let Eddie give Eddie some space. Yeah, greatly missed. But crank your Van Halen tunes, folks, every day. That shouldn't just be on the anniversary of Ed's death.
You're here.
Top 5 band of all time, and Eddie, rest in peace. James Earl Jones, rest in peace. Eddie Van Halen, rest in peace. We got to get to the positivity on this show, Jim.
Heck yeah.
So tonight, folks, let me throw it on up here. But just in case you forgot, this is the podcast where the fun sanity never ends. And it's also the podcast where tonight we are doing a threefer. And tonight's threefer is Hollywood spoofs, or I should say spoofs of Hollywood. And, you can't see it now, but maybe, you'll see it when we, that's a Hollywood sign behind us now. For those of you who are watching on YouTube, that's what's there. Those banner lights are going up on the Hollywood sign. And Jim and I, as we know, we're big lovers of movies. We also love movies that take a little bit of the piss out of Hollywood. And our plus one tonight is going to be our favorite performance, or the guy or gal that we feel best nailed their role in a spoof of Hollywood. So let's get right to it, Jim. You're number 3, spoof of Hollywood.
Let me start off by saying that Hollywood still obviously has not been spoofed enough, because as we record this, Joker 2, the sequel that nobody asked for, that Warner Brothers spent $200 million on, has just bombed in its opening weekend. And clearly some folks in Hollywood have not learned their lessons over the years. I'll just leave it at that. So anyway, on to my number 3.
Do you know how much it made? I mean, how big of a bomb are we looking at?
I think it was a $40 million opening weekend.
That's it? Ooh.
That's it. Yeah.
Hollywood has been rebounding too. So,
and the first one made $1 billion in its entire run, but if any movie did not require a sequel, that was it. And yet Hollywood said, let's just throw a bunch of money at a sequel. Let's turn it into a musical with Lady Gaga for no reason, and just see how that works out. And also piss all over the original story. But anyway,
Todd Phillips. He's won us over with a lot of goodwill through the years. I especially like the fact that he's a bit of an anti-union guy going after the Writers Guild. I like that. But yeah, too bad because the first Joker, I think it was brought up on one of our shows last year or the year before, 2 years ago. I love the fact we can say 2 years ago with these shows. The Joker, great movie, but I believe that was on one of our lists of movies that we really need to see again because it was just so gorgeously disturbing. But it just hit all the right notes for what it was. But yeah, well, too bad. I can't deny that I was a little bit intrigued by the musical aspect of it because Lady Gaga, say what you will about her, I loved her in A Star Is Born. And I thought that she did a great job of that. She can be a good actress, but I guess this is one I'll wait for watching at home.
Yeah. Oh, that digression aside. On to my number.
Well, hey, let's get to the fun spoofs of Hollywood because we got big lists here, folks. Big lists, but we're going to narrow it down to 3.
Indeed. So my number 3, and this being Halloween, I had to include a horror spoof. So for my number 3, I went with Cabin in the Woods, which is a brilliant satire of the horror genre. And first time I saw it, the satire didn't really land as well as it should have. But after repeated viewings, it sunk in, and I realized what a brilliant satire it is. Joss Whedon and Drew Goddard really just clearly horror fans and just threw every cliche in there and spoofed them and completely self-aware. Had so much fun with the genre in that movie. And it works as just a solid horror movie. But if you look at the satirical aspects of it, it's absolutely brilliant. And hilarious and scary and just all the things that a horror comedy should be, and an absolute blast of a movie that I was delighted to see in theaters and have not gotten tired of yet. So can't say too many glowing things about it. It's fantastic, and that's my pick.
All right, I'm not a horror movie guy, but something tells me that sounds like something that I might enjoy. I might not get all the jokes like you would, knowing all the different what would be cliche and whatnot. But I think I could push through on that one.
Yeah, they're really obvious cliches that are being poked fun at. So I think you get it for sure.
Well, for my number 3, I'm actually I have a feeling Jim's going to be bringing this up in one of his top 2. So I'm going to save mine for an honorable mention, in case he doesn't bring it up. We care about each other, folks. It's the Darth Vader stuff going on. It's much more than that. So, but I'm going to go with one that's really, unfortunately, under the radar when it got released in the early 2000s. And it's starring Matthew Broderick and Alec Baldwin and a really good, a cool cast, The Last Shot. And it's based on a true story about the FBI starting a movie studio in order to shake down a mobster. And they go to film a movie in Rhode Island, of all places, just to try and get this guy up from New York City. And they're really going after bigger bait to get, I believe it was John Gotti. Yeah. And Ray Liotta plays Alec Baldwin's brother, and they're competing FBI agents. And it's just, and Matthew Broderick plays an aspiring screenwriter, a writer/director, and he's put all of his hopes and dreams into this one script, and he sells out to Hollywood because he's like, well, it takes place in the desert, and Baldwin convinces him, well, Rhode Island is the desert of the East Coast. Well, I really need a big thing. There's just a dance, an American Indian dance, and they end up filming it in a storage shed. Or a rent-a-shed, and Matthew Broderick, just to make this movie, he sells out. It's such a brilliant takedown of Hollywood, and again, supposedly based on a true story, which makes it even better.
Yeah, and I only remember bits and pieces of that because I haven't seen it in a while. But I remember just there were these kind of individual character scenes where they would bring in different actors and just let them, they would just kind of all do something that was something funny, like a monologue or some random thing. The one I remember the most is Tony Shalhoub as the scarred mobster and telling the story of how he got burned. He said his wife lit his face on fire, and then he says, 7 years later, our marriage ended. Just a line like that.
Yes.
Like delivered.
And so, Tony Collette was great. The words I don't say very often. Calista Flockhart was great. And yeah, just good fun takedown of Hollywood. Loved it.
For sure, yeah. I think, like I said, I think it was mostly an excuse for actors to just kind of riff on some fun dialogue, but yeah, definitely a fun movie. And yeah, as you say, one that went way under the radar, but yeah, kick of a movie for sure.
Nice, yes. All right, Jim, over to you for your second pick.
Okay, so my second one is a movie from the late '90s called Bowfinger. It's a Steve Martin movie with maybe the funniest Eddie Murphy performance of all time. And obviously, there's a lot of contenders, but as he's so hilarious in this as in a dual role, and it has a lot of that Steve Martin humor, which is very witty, very absurdist. And obviously poking fun a lot, but doing it in kind of a gentle way. His character is just, it's just a complete, as this producer is, or a filmmaker is just a complete, like cartoonish Hollywood stereotype. But you kind of like him, and you kind of want him to make this horrible movie he's trying to make, and you kind of root for him. And it kind of has a point that all filmmaking, or pretty much all work in Hollywood, is working as a con artist in one way or another. And that's basically what his character is somebody who's just trying to con his way into getting a movie made that he normally should not be able to get made. But Eddie Murphy is great in dual roles. Robert Downey Jr., when he was on the outs with Hollywood, is really funny in a supporting role. The great Christine Baranski as this aging starlet, who just is over the top in everything she does, is hilarious. And there's so many great set pieces that I won't spoil if anybody hasn't seen the movie, but it's a great, I mean, it's a great Hollywood satire, but it's just a great wacky comedy too. Yeah. And if you haven't seen that one, it's well worth checking out. It's a really, really funny movie.
Well, Bowfinger got brought up on my favorite, one of my favorite movies from 1990. We're talking about 99 or 99?
99. It was our 99 episode. Yeah.
Yeah. So we all know how much I love Bowfinger. And I was almost going to, when we were doing this, I'm like, I just need to make Bowfinger. Like, I've talked about it. I've loved it. So, I mean, I hate to relegate it to an honorable mention category, but by the time we get to my number one, you'll understand, like, it may be like 1B to my 1A, but yeah, I love the fact you bring Bowfinger up. And again, words we don't say very often, Jamie Kennedy, pretty damn funny.
Jamie Kennedy was pretty good. Yeah. Even Heather Graham, who's normally doesn't have a lot of range, is pretty funny in it.
She's basically playing herself.
Yeah. The Hollywood's version of the Village Bicycle. Pretty funny in that. It's something about Steve Martin is, he knows that town through and through, and he knows how to find a really funny dig on every aspect of it. And some of the same notes he hit with another really good Hollywood satire, which is going to be one of my honorable mentions. Which I'll bring up when I talk about my honorable mentions.
Yeah.
It's
just me and you tonight, Jim. Throw a couple out now. Throw a couple honorable mentions out there.
L.A. Story
is
another one he did, early 90s. Kind of an overlooked comedy, but really, really funny. And just it's a really kind of a funny mix of rom-com and then just kind of absurdist take on living in L.A. And just how bizarro it is there. But again, same kind of tone, very good natured, kind of elbowing his fellow Hollywood types in the ribs for kind of living in a bubble, but still kind of affectionate and just a fun movie. So, Bowfinger is, I mean, it's got to be one of the best Hollywood satires of all time. It's so because it knows the city through and through. It's so well done.
And back to LA Story quickly. I watched it a lot before I moved to LA, and then I was really bummed. Although I knew it was a movie, but I wanted to go eat at Lidio. So yeah, Lidio. Yeah, but there were a lot of restaurants that could have posed as that. But yeah, so Jim, I like your number two, like your honorable mention. My number two is going to go to the brilliant mind of Robert Townsend, Hollywood Shuffle, a movie I quote endlessly, and whether all the movie, like the sketches within the sketches, but just a takedown of Hollywood and how it treats Black actors. And like the Black Acting School, great satire within it. The sneaking into movies, the Jack Spade character going after Jerry Curl. Not my activator, not my activator. Yeah, and just and the three, the producer, the writer, and the agents when they're doing the auditioning scenes. Good Lord, that is cattle call 101, and trying to put all the actors into a category. We're looking for an Eddie Murphy type, an Murphy-esque, and just cutting all the guys and just different and riffing on Eddie Murphy stuff. Hollywood Shuffle. It's another one of those movies. I'll flip around the channels, I'll see it, or I'll pop the DVD in, or stream it, or whatever to watch one scene. I end up watching the whole movie.
Yeah, it might, and that might make a good double watch with Spike Lee's Bamboozled, which is a similar theme, but obviously in a much more angry tone.
From Spike?
Yeah, Spike Lee.
Oh, he's always such a pleasant fellow.
Yeah, exactly. He's always in such a good mood about everything, especially basketball. You see him at the games.
Sorry.
Yeah, but and I think he goes over the top with his satire in that, but it's still.
Oh, it's a very good movie. Yeah,
I like a good movie that hits a real nerve about Black actors in Hollywood, the entertainment business, and kind of how they're pigeonholed and how they're treated, and definitely also a good one. I didn't quite make my list because, like I say, the tone's a little bit too, shall we say, pissy to enjoy, but it definitely is a good satire. It's very well done. So,
and actually, it doesn't fit into a spoof of Hollywood, but I always go with I've got a threefer within a threefer tonight, folks. I do Hollywood Shuffle. I'm going to Get You Sucker, and Fear of a Black Hat.
Okay, that's it. That would be a fun trilogy to watch.
And the night they're only about an hour and a half each, if that. So it's an afternoon. You're good. But Robert Townsend just was hitting on all cylinders on that one, and just love Hollywood Shuffle. My number 2 pick for spoofs of Hollywood. So Jim, let's go through a huge list of honorable mentions before you get to your number 1.
And I've tried to trim them down to just the ones I really like, for the record. But yeah, my honorable mention.
I will not be able to make that same claim in a few minutes.
Yeah, my honorable mentions. So again, apologies up front if I step on one of yours, but I'm gonna go with first Hot Fuzz, which is a hilarious British spoof of cop movies and horror movies in about equal measure, and one of my all-time favorites. You mentioned The Last Shot, and I'm going to go with a very similarly toned State and Maine.
Oh,
David Mamet's State and Maine, also with Alec Baldwin. Not again, also went under the radar, but a really fun movie and a good spoof of kind of Hollywood culture. Another one of my all-time favorite movies, Galaxy Quest. Doesn't really spoof Hollywood so much, but it definitely spoofs space operas, sci-fi, definitely Star Trek, and just kind of the celebrity lifestyle, shall we say. Scary movie, another great spoof of horror cliches. And another good horror spoof is Tucker and Dale versus Evil. It's a couple of specific cliches, which I won't give away, but that's a great movie. And finally, UHF. Which is kind of a scattershot spoof of movies, TV, just everything that was out in the 80s. And Weird Al just kind of mows them all down with that Rambo gun of satire. So,
and Conan the Librarian.
Don't you know the Dewey Decimal System?
And folks, I'd like to point out once again, it is not I, but Jim bringing up Weird Al Yankovic. Kudos, my friend. Kudos.
He's always on the tip of my brain. What can I say?
It's leading somewhere, folks. Hint, hint.
No idea what you're talking about.
I don't either.
But anyway, yeah, that's my honorable mentions, and I'm gonna go now to my number 1, which is Tropic Thunder.
I did not even think about that, but God,
yes, such a hilarious So politically incorrect movie, so much fun, so like it just I don't know, profane in parts, and probably one of the last really politically incorrect comedies. And of course, people in Hollywood got offended because it was making fun of them. So then they decided, oh, you can't do that now. And I think every year, Robert Downey Jr. and Ben Stiller have somebody stick a microphone in their face at some event and say, "You think you could make that movie this year? Think that you could make that movie this year? You think you can make that movie this year?" Until finally one of them finally says, "Okay, you win. I can't make it this year." And it's one of those things that just irks me, because if people would stop saying you can't make it, then people and just went and made it, then it would get made, and didn't do anything about it. But yeah, it's just the satire of Hollywood is fantastic. The actors are just all of them knock it out of the park. Ben Stiller, Robert Downey Jr., Jack Black, of course, Tom Cruise is amazing, and the actor is escaping me right now, but anyway, all the actors. I was going to say McConaughey, actually.
Oh, McConaughey, all of them. McConaughey nails the agent, the sniveling agent, who will sell his soul for a jet airplane. Yep.
Oh, and the guy, he misunderstands something that Ben Stiller says to him on the phone, and he thinks he killed a hooker, and he immediately starts giving him a plan how to deal with it. It's just so funny.
That is Hollywood.
Oh my gosh, yeah, and prescient for sure, considering everything we know about Hollywood now. Yeah. But yes, hilarious movie, so great, and such a fun rewatch, and fantastic. Love that one.
Well, I am very surprised that you did not bring up one. I mean, I'm convinced you're going to be bringing it up later, but I'm going to start my honorable mentions with Swimming with Sharks. And
you may have guessed correctly.
Kevin Spacey and Frank Whaley, just so good. Both of those guys just nailed the guy who wants to make it in Hollywood, fresh out of the Midwest or wherever. Was he from the Midwest?
No, I'm from California. Oh, his character. Sorry, I was. Yes, I believe so.
So again, just the fresh face in Hollywood.
Yeah,
landing the big job, and Spacey again talking about being prescient and just. I shouldn't even say that. People have known that for years. That's just the way that Hollywood works, and you got the guy swinging his big whatever around, and the Swimming Sharks is an honorable mention. Soap Dish, also another honorable mention.
I didn't even think about Soap Dish, but I love that movie. It's hilarious.
Another one I just can't watch for one scene, and this might be trivia with Jim. Hang on a second, I'm going to get it up here. We haven't seen trivia with Jim in a while. Let me get rid of your one. This is what happens, folks, when I've got to produce by myself. I'm doing here. So trivia with Jim. I'm going to throw it out there to you. I will proffer this. The cast of Soap Dish, I think, has the largest amount of Oscar winners / nominees. You've got Sally Field, Kevin Kline. Let's see. Carrie Fisher's been a nominee. The winner for I'm blanking now. But for Whoopi Goldberg, Robert Downey Jr. Let's see, Catherine
Moriarty?
from Raging Bull.
Yep.
Moriarty, Kathy Moriarty. Catherine. I was being very formal with Kathy Moriarty. Kathy Moriarty. I'm missing one. But of course, Gary Marshall has been nominated for Academy Awards. So, can you think of any movie that has a larger amount of? And forget those the blockbuster, like the where it was just they threw everybody in it.
Oh well, if you're gonna pull my legs out from under me, shoot, man.
But no, what do we call the what kind of movies were those? The disaster movies.
Disaster movie. Oh yeah.
So I mean, okay. So can you think of anything? No, disqualifiers or not?
Oppenheimer, possibly.
Okay.
That has a lot of award winners. That had basically all of Hollywood at the time, but a lot of award winners and nominees in that. Let's see. That's the only one I can think of off the top of my head.
Well, I also forgot Elizabeth Shue in Soap Dish.
Oh yeah, in Las Vegas. That's right. Yep.
But
So
that's only an honorable mention for me. And I got to throw in The Player. I'll be bringing that up as a comparison in a little bit. Ed Wood, love that one. And not so much a spoof of Hollywood, but only because at the end you've got Lou Lord with the great Orson Welles, The Muppet Movie. I want to mention as an honorable mention.
Yep.
That's
This is Jim Henson biting the hand that feeds him right there, and it was a lot of fun.
It was brilliant for a 9-year-old sitting there in the theater loving The Muppet Movie, and an almost 55-year-old still loving The Muppet Movie.
And did such a good job that when the Muppets came along 2 decades later and tried to do basically the same thing, it didn't do nearly as good of a job, even though it was a fun movie.
It was a fun movie, but no,
ape previous Muppet movies that had a bit more wit about them.
Well, maybe it's just because we've become such a cynical era.
Could be. But yeah, to your question, I'm going to say Oppenheimer probably had more award winners or nominees, but I could be.
So yeah, of course, Robert Downey Jr. again.
Or The Departed.
Possibly
The Departed, possibly as well.
Okay, let's go through those because it's fun. So Alec Baldwin,
Matt Damon. Yeah, Jack, Matt Damon, Leonardo DiCaprio,
Martin Sheen,
Mark Wahlberg, who was nominated for The Departed. Let's see, who else?
I thought he was nominated for having the only credible Boston accent.
He is legit, no doubt. That's why he was the most badass in that movie.
Yes. So yeah, so there's a few.
So I would say it's at least neck and neck.
Yeah. All right, well, on to my number one, which doesn't have a lot of people who've been nominated, but it's near and dear to the heart. And I wish our old buddy Joe Michaels was here because I'm going with Christopher Guest's first movie. His first movie was not Waiting for Guffman. It was The Big Picture. Starring Kevin Bacon, Michael McKean, Jennifer Jason Leigh. My God, it's just Kevin Bacon playing a guy from the Midwest. And of course, the great J.T. Walsh in that one, Terry Hatcher. Terry Hatcher wasn't nominated for anything, but she's also in Soap. There's a little connection there, Soap Dish, and now The Big Picture. And Kevin Bacon playing, he goes to film school out in, comes from the Midwest, goes to film school in L.A., big award ceremony. He doesn't, he ends up winning it, gets the attention of the Hollywood studios, and a nice uncredited performance by the great Martin Short, who becomes his agent and steers him through Hollywood as only crazy Martin Short. And then, what was Martin Short's character that he took onto the red carpets?
Oh, I haven't seen that movie in so long.
Oh, but no, the red carpet. He would go and he would just.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Well, that agent was essentially the precursor to that.
Jiminy Glick. Yeah.
Yeah, Jiminy Glick. Yeah, so his agent had a lot of similarities down to the voice even, but Kevin Bacon just and then he's the fresh-faced kid, and he just gets put through all the cliches, and J.T. Walsh comes in, woos him, gives him the production, steers him down. Well, what if you tried this? It turns into a completely different movie, much like Matthew Broderick wound up doing with The Last Shot. But The Big Picture, and it kind of now an honorable mention would be The Player. And unfortunately, The Big Picture came out around the same time as The Player. The Player, of course, has such a bigger cast. It's a Robert Altman movie. It's hard to go up against that. But I'm as an Indians fan, Guardians fan, I love the underdog, folks, and that's why I go with The Big Picture for my number one Hollywood spoof.
Not to mention Michael McKean was in that, who was also in Jiminy Glick.
There you go.
Connection.
I need to get the trivia with Jim Culver back up on the screen. And do you remember who played J.T. Walsh's wife?
I do not.
Bobby Fleckman, Fran Drescher.
Oh boy.
So, but she doesn't have that voice in that one. She actually plays a Hollywood producer wife. So yes, it doesn't have that the New York affectation. But
Yeah.
Yes. So there you have it, folks. There is our threefer of our favorite Hollywood spoofs. But now we're going to go to our plus one, which is the performance that we thought best embodied the character they were playing in spoof in as a Hollywood personality. Jim, to you.
Okay. Well, I think you've already sussed out my pick, but I'm gonna go with it anyway.
Well, nobody else knows. I
Yeah.
know, but everyone else needs to know.
Well, yeah, but Buddy Ackerman, played by Kevin Spacey in Swimming with Sharks. Obviously, Kevin Spacey's career not doing so great right now, but I will say he, especially back in the '90s, he gave a lot of fantastic performances. This is definitely one of his best. He is amazing as this cutthroat Hollywood producer that just treats his assistant like a piece of lint, just treats him
You're
like
being generous.
absolute dirt. But it's so weirdly fun to watch him go because his dialogue is so funny. There's so much good dark comedy in it, and he's just so naturally charismatic playing this like tyrant in a suit. And as much as you hate him and you can't wait for him to get his comeuppance, it's just so much fun to watch him go. His If I remember right, he had a thing for little wind up toys on his desk in the movie, and then that's what he feels like is a wind up toy. Like they just wind him up and let him go. And for these amazing scenes, he just goes off, and you cannot take your eyes off the screen. He's fantastic in the movie. You can a little bit of trivia. You can throw this back up there.
Yeah. Hang on one second.
The director of that movie was a fellow named George Huang,
Yes.
who got started as an assistant to somebody a lot like that. That's how he got into Hollywood. His career didn't go too far after that, but he actually made a little bit of film history after that. He was friends with Elijah Wood, and he actually filmed and directed Elijah Wood's audition for Lord of the Rings. So had he not been there, we might have a totally different Frodo in Lord of the Rings, and those movies would probably be very different. So little bit of film history there.
Trivia with Jim Culver never disappoints on this show, folks. I'm convinced of it. Thank you, Jim, for enlightening our audience and me. I didn't know that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and also the Buddy Ackerman character that Kevin Spacey plays is based on a producer named Joel Silver, who produced most of the big action movies of the '80s that we all grew up on in the early '90s, and is apparently just that kind of a loudmouth person. He might have been overplayed for the movie a little bit, but he definitely had a reputation in Hollywood as a little bit over the top personality, shall we say?
Wow.
So
this is apparently a PG show tonight, folks.
Yeah, apparently, but more like I don't want to get our video pulled by things.
Well done, my friend. Well done. Yes.
So that's my pick. And then for my honorable mention, so I know we're not doing TV, but I'm just going to go ahead and include anyway.
Go for it. This is Hollywood.
From the show Entourage, Harvey Weingard, character of Harvey Weingard. Can't imagine who that's based on, but played by the great Maury Chaykin, R.I.P. Great character actor who passed away a while ago, but played this cantankerous, creepy movie producer named Harvey Weingard. Fantastic spoof of I think you know who, and that was back in 2005, 2006, and it's almost like Hollywood knew about what he was up to back then. But anyway, let's just move on from that. But
you're really trying to get us pulled this week. Well, we all know the truth, Colonel. So, yes, yeah. So.
All right.
Well, I love that call. As I mentioned, Swimming with Sharks is one of my honorable mentions, and a big part of that is Kevin Spacey. Like in the '90s, could do little to no wrong. Awesome.
Yep.
My number one, my plus one is going to be pulled from my number one pick, The Big Picture. I cannot say enough awesome things about what a character actor J.T. Walsh was, and he nailed the just general cluelessness or just living in a different space He brings Kevin. The character is Alan Habel, played by J.T. Walsh in The Big Picture, and he's a guy who just like I mentioned earlier, just brings him in and takes the concept of his movie and makes it a completely different movie. He's got his assistant there. Well, what are the demographics are saying? So it's just like making it a cookie cutter piece of crap movie from a great concept, a creative concept, and just throwing everything at Kevin Bacon's character. And one of my favorite lines of dialogue is because Kevin Bacon being from Ohio, he has, tell me a little bit about yourself, Nick. And he's like, well, I'm from Ohio. Oh, my sister went to Northwestern. Which biggest and most clueless non sequitur ever.
Yep.
That's Hollywood. They're not listening to one word you say. They're just doing what they want to do. And we've thrown out a lot of RIPs tonight, but I think obviously they're all very missed people, but JT Walsh, that just really bummed me out. Not as much as Eddie Van Halen's passing, but JT Walsh, one of Hollywood's great character actors of all time. It's a bold statement. I will stick with it. And his Alan Habel in The Big Picture. Rest in peace, JT Walsh.
JT Walsh was a treasure. He was fantastic. Who knows? It's such a shame we lost him so early. We in the 90s we missed out on so many great performances from him. Had he stuck around a little bit longer, for sure.
He if you need a go-to guy in the 90s, JT Walsh, that was your man. So, but folks, there you have the latest Threefer number 42 here on All Over the Place, Hollywood spoofs and spoofing of Hollywood within those, and our plus one being our favorite performances from someone who just nails their character. Thanks for listening. As always, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share, and we'll be back real soon. All Over the Place, where the fun sanity never ends.